incredible career after leaving the military. Just done so many different things. So we'll get a chance to learn about all of his background and the amazing stuff that he's done in this space and what specifically he's doing now to help veterans who are running their own businesses. So Scott is the CEO of the National Veteran Small Business Coalition. They represent about 10,000 veterans across the country. And Scott, on this call are all transitioning service members who are just getting ready for their next act. They're trying to figure out what they want to do. And while most of them will probably be going to work for a company, a lot of them have goals of starting their own business. So I think this will be especially interesting to a lot of people on the call. But he helps these businesses around the country as with training, with networking, with advocacy work. He's in the DC metro area. He's also worked at the SBA. He was this chief operating officer of Team RWB. So done a lot of cool stuff. So Scott, thanks for coming on with us today, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Jordy. It's great to see everybody here, and it's always great to be amongst so many brothers and sisters who are making their transitions or have made their transitions and everything. So I really appreciate you giving me the chance to be here and meet everybody.
You're welcome, man. So tell everyone a little bit about your time in the Corps. Why'd you serve? What was that experience like for you? And
Yeah, well, I'm a 27-year Marine. I was a helicopter pilot, retired in 2016. Spent a lot of time in the operating forces, 8 combat tours, commanded at a lot of different levels as an aviator. Spent time in the Pentagon on staff tours, and retired out of Quantico, Virginia, as the chief of behavioral programs there. So had a great uh, career as a Marine. Enjoyed every minute of it. And I guess, like many of you, probably didn't realize how much I enjoyed it until I didn't have it anymore. Had to figure out what I was going to be when I grew up. So uh, had a little bit of a tumultuous transition, like a lot of folks do, trying to figure out what I was going to settle on. And I can talk about that too, Jordy, if you want.
yeah, fire away. Tell
But that
everyone. Yeah, that's
yeah.
important.
So I mean, I really struggled with figuring out my why and my mission and my leadership. And I jumped out and jumped into the nonprofit space, which is where I'm at right now. But knowing where and why and understanding myself took a couple years, and I suspect many of you will take some time to figure out the alignment of what made me happy and successful and content in uniform, what the elements of that translate to what makes you content and successful in the civilian world. And what seems obvious may not always be the exact things that are obvious to what's going to make you comfortable. So I jumped around a year and a half here, a year and a half there, at different organizations, and ultimately started then my own company of consulting for nonprofits that landed me consulting for the National Veteran Small Business Coalition. Found a home, found success, and we started succeeding to the point where I had to come on full time and take on the role full time, although I still do consulting on the side as well. But this became a home for me 5.5 years ago now, and have settled and have been happy about working here ever since.
That's awesome. What were tell everyone a little bit about some of the other gigs you had when you got out and what you liked about some of them.
Yeah, so I was the assistant vice president for leadership programs at the American Council on Education, which is one of the oldest associations that support higher education. We led leadership programs that developed administrators at 1,600 different higher education organizations across the country. And it was great for me to kind of learn civilian. When my president walked by, that her office was just a couple doors down from me. She wasn't ma'am, she was Molly. And getting used to, first names and kind of getting out of that yes sir, no sir, three bags full mentality. Uh, and I learned a lot from my vice president that I was working under as well. At the same time, I learned that I really missed working around and with veterans, and I was kind of alone and unafraid, under misunderstood there. Everyone kind of stereotyped me as this old bald Marine colonel that and had expectations of me that maybe didn't transpire, but I didn't do a good job of managing that myself. So I struggled there a little bit as well in the process. An opportunity came up to then become the CEO of a nonprofit called Protect Our Defenders that focused more on military service and those who had suffered from military sexual trauma, which was the area I was working in when I retired from the Marine Corps. And I worked with them for a little while, but truthfully struggled with a board chair and a founder that didn't live kind of by the same leadership standards that we're all used to, mission type orders, trust, servant leadership. And while we had the intent for the same mission, it was really challenged for me to work there. So I left there without a prospect, but quickly got picked up by Team RWB, Team Red, White, and Blue, as a chief operating officer, and worked with them for about a year and a half. Um, they restructured. They had brought in a bunch of chief XXs at the organization and learned that they didn't have the financial plan and business plan together to sustain that many chief XXs, and had to do some shrinkage and riff and so a bunch of us left and were asked, and lost our jobs there, truthfully, in the reduction in force. And that's when I became a consultant and got certified with the VA as a service disabled veteran owned small business. And that was really what got me kind of really stoked into this small business community, and ultimately at NVSBC. And NVSBC, as Jordy mentioned, provides training, engagement, and advocacy that in support of veteran-owned small businesses. We focus predominantly on federal contracting, small businesses that want to be federal contractors, but we're actually expanding into the commercial side of things as well as working rather closely with other large organizations like the Institute for Veteran and Military Families up in Syracuse, and the SBA and other nonprofits that do entrepreneurial work. Um, and I'm excited to talk to this crowd too, because we represent businesses that are always looking to hire veteran businesses as well. So majority of the program, as well as some of the individuals on here, uh, might end up working for some of the small businesses we represent.
Absolutely. And that's what I love, be able to keep, have veteran businesses hiring veterans. I think it's the best way to grow this community. So, talk a little bit more about the organization, what exactly you do to support these, the businesses in the coalition, and what are some of the details of that? Because I'm sure I know a lot of people on the call are interested in working in the nonprofit space and what that's
Yeah,
been like for you.
yeah. So we're a national nonprofit. We're fully remote, so we don't have an office. We're actually two nonprofits in one. One is a 501(c)(6), which is a membership organization, and that's how we were founded about almost 15 years ago. 5 years ago, when I came on board, we activated a 501(c)(3), which is a public charity, and that's really where we do most of our work these days. We do it in a mix of um, training and engagement events that are virtual and in person, spread around the country at 9 different communities of interest, where there's a large concentration of federal contracting. Think San Diego, Huntsville, Alabama, Dayton, Ohio, obviously the DC area, those types of locations, Tampa. We host big events. We have a couple of big events each year: a finance symposium, a major conference that this year is in New Orleans, Louisiana, with that has over 2,000 small business professionals that come and participate in that. And then regional events. Tomorrow I leave for San Antonio, Texas, to host a small group in San Antonio. Around each one of our regional areas, we host a fellowship cohort each year that deep dives with a small group of folks that are oriented around that particular concentration of in our 9 concentrated areas. We host a YouTube channel that has hundreds of hours of training content on it for small business professionals, and there's a large number of just training and development opportunities for small businesses. What's important, and I heard the discussion as we were waiting to start, Jordy, but the networking side of things are so critical, and what we're really known for is putting the right people in the right rooms so that small businesses can meet other small businesses, so they can meet federal agencies where work can get done, where they can connect with large primes who can be partners with them and help them get started. And then the other thing that we've become real well known for is our advocacy. We're if there's a discussion in Congress about doing something with veteran small businesses, I'm oftentimes the first person that the small business committees call to get an opinion on that. Um, we're very well connected in the federal agencies that have small business programs. And as Jordy mentioned, I sit on 2 different small business committees as an appointee by the Small Business Administrator, representing veteran small businesses as well. So, we're a pretty small staff. We've got 7 paid staff members. We're getting ready to grow to about 9. We've got a grant that just came in that's going to help us fund a few of those new positions. And then we have about 25 contractors and consultants who back end us as well, and then over 250 volunteers who are trainers and teachers and subject matter experts and senior fellows and help us in our local communities to manage the logistics and that type of stuff. But we run the full gamut of raising money and development, operations, and program management, and helping put training together. One thing that's unique about us is we've created a body of knowledge for those of you who are familiar with the project management PMP system and the PMBOK. But we have a small business BOK that addresses all the needs of a small business professional, and that's what we structure our training and our engagements on, is providing support across that full spectrum of a body of knowledge. And that's what the grant that we just recently got that I alluded to. We're going to grow into more activities in 2026 as part of that as well.
That's
So
awesome.
we've got a lot of experience in and a lot of activity in the nonprofit programmatic development space for one thing. So in this crowd, it's kind of, if you're interested in nonprofits, we've got a lot to talk about. If you're interested in entrepreneurial development programs and how those are done, we've got a lot to talk about. We can go and then if you're just interested in what it's like to be a nonprofit consultant or executive, we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, that's great. If someone could throw in Scott's LinkedIn URL in the chat and his webpage, that'd be great to do that for me so people can reach out for more info. Tell everyone a little bit about, like, when you say you represent these 10,000 businesses, who is that? What sort of business is it? Is it a solo entrepreneur? Is it a company with 100 people? What industries?
Yeah, it's all of that, and I would say we touched about 10,000 companies last year. We actually represent about 30,000 companies that are registered to do business with the federal government. So, but it ranges from those who are just getting started, the solopreneur who's trying to figure out how to get a contract with the federal government, all the way to large companies that you know up to, depending on size and how the government measures small business, they could be worth $100 million. We're getting ready to sell to a large company for $150 million and walk away.
Yeah.
So it's anything from a single single company that's just getting started to ones that have hundreds of, if not thousands of employees. So it's a broad mix across that full spectrum. The key for us is we kind of key off of the Small Business Administration's definition of small business. And depending on what industry you're in, that's either measured by your revenue or by the number of employees you have, depending on the industry. We're heavily focused in professional services and IT because that's where the federal government spends most of its money. We have a lot of contract or construction, engineering, and architecture companies associated with us. Again, that's another large area where the federal government spends money. And then manufacturing and product suppliers are also a part of that our ecosystem too. But I would say you would find every element of the industries, but we're really heavily focused in professional services, IT, construction,
Yeah.
and product suppliers.
Do you see any trends over the next few years for the crew here, and like what might be good industries to pursue? Where do you see government spending a lot of money?
Yeah, the I think if we've seen anything in the first year of this administration, which drives so much of what we represent, it's probably pretty kind of master of the obvious here in some regards, but a lot of money at Department of War, a lot of money going into Department of Homeland Security because of the border security and border protection issues. So we see a lot there. The intelligence community, as far as industry goes, um, there was kind of a retraction in the professional services category because there was perception that consulting was being overdone and overinvested. But what the government is finding out now is they actually needed those people to do that level of professional services to sustain the government. So we're seeing some of that coming back. But IT, cyber security, AI are all real big growth areas from an industry vertical versus a agency vertical, if you will. And the other thing that most everybody on this call should know is that the Veteran Affairs VA has a mandate that for small business spend, they have to give um, uh, veteran small businesses first shot at their contracting. So there's a large in the billions being spent at VA every year because of the Vet First mandate
Yeah,
for
that's
working at the VA.
Yeah, that's awesome. Put in the chat if anyone is interested in, either nonprofit or advocacy work on behalf of veterans. And I'm just curious, or if anyone wants to go, work in DC and uh and explore some of these industries because I think it's super exciting. Um, what um what do you like about what you get to do each day? Like, why do you keep doing this?
I don't know, Jordy. That's a question I ask my wife every morning. I
You know,
think, why do I keep doing this?
and
Um, I say that tongue in cheek. For one thing, for me, and I think we all recognize this, is um, it it's all about the veteran community, those who've served. I can get up every day and be energized over the fact that I get to work with, interact with, watch, hopefully help advance the needs of veterans and military families. I hold a real dear connection to both, and that's not unique to me. I work in a community every day that it's clear we care about each other and we want to continue to work and support each other. And it's amazing to me when we host events, whether it's in Washington D.C. or we just hosted a big awards gala that we host each year, and we'll invite people that may not know the community very well, and to a person, if they haven't served or they might represent a company that isn't veteran owned, but they want to work with veteran owned, or for whatever reason they're not familiar with our community, to a person, they're like, holy cow, is this a welcoming community?
Mm.
I couldn't be I couldn't stand on the wall and try to be ignored because no one would allow that of me. They engage with us in a way, and that's what's so great for me is every day these veterans. I like to say that veterans are the only community that's willing to help create their own competition. They're so selfless in giving, even in the business community, where if you're another veteran trying to become their competitor, they're going to give you a hand up to help you become a competitor with them and hopefully a partner. But it's, and then the nonprofit space is challenging. You got to sing for your supper. You got to make the money that you get paid for. You're always on this balance of, are we going to survive and are we going to bring it in, and constantly out there trying to develop more opportunity. So it's a challenge, and I like challenges. I like creating new programs and producing better and more and doing it faster, and the nonprofit space, uh, compared to the federal government Department of War, is ungoverned to a certain degree. It's not bureaucratic. You can operate at a fast pace and make decisions quickly, and it's really mission oriented. It's
Yeah.
if you can perceive it, you can achieve it type work, and you got to be careful because you can violate rules and laws and all that stuff. So I say ungoverned somewhat tongue in cheek, but you can really make things happen if
Yeah.
you have the right mentality and the right goals as a leader and a manager to really get things done quickly.
I like that. Gary, you got a question for Scott?
I do. Well, first off, hey Scott, I just wanted to kind of compliment you on the background you just talked about. I am too in this sense of a family sense veteran process. I'm out here in Colorado Springs, and
Oh,
so
great.
yeah, so for your process for what you guys have for your staff, what you do, I understand. Coming off a platform with General Camera, coming down to AUSUs and AUSUAs, and working at the academy and being down at the Pentagon. High connections there as well for me on that side of the house. Looking at for you, your company, if I an extension, we probably talk, how do you benefit? What do you do for the Springs area for instance of like at like extension of what you were providing and what you were enabling your background to be in?
Yeah, so I think I can answer your question, but if I don't, follow up, Gary. It's nice to meet you too, by the
Then
way. And I will
nice
tell
to
you
meet
guys,
you.
I don't know, Gary, this wasn't a softball throw, but one of our 9 communities of interest is in Colorado Springs. So, so we have a fellows cohort that's centered out of the Springs. We kind of look at the Springs and then Denver and that the greater um, area out there, but we chose Colorado Springs as our hub. So we
Right.
meet there 3 or 4 times a year, even, and bring in speakers and bring in the community together so that folks can meet. But if you're in an area where we're not physically meeting, that's why that the online and remote resources that we provide are so important. You can go to our
Understood.
website, to our YouTube channel, and if you're thinking about entrepreneurship or you want to know how to go about doing something, it's free. You can spend hours there learning and being taught. The other thing that I didn't mention is we have a consulting program, that again is free. You can call into our consultants, schedule an appointment, and if you're thinking about starting a company, get referrals to the right folks. They can connect you and give you an idea of who's in your local area that you might be able to reach out to as far
Mhm.
as SBA funded resources. They will answer questions if it's something that can't be answered by someone else, and they'll continue to follow up throughout your progression of as you learn and grow. Typically, those who call into our consultation, they make 2 or 3 or 4 hits by the time it's all done. Call them back in once they've climbed that one rung and then hit the next rung, and they'll call back in. And what's unique about us too is it's not just about the veteran owner. It's anybody in a company that is is eligible for our training and to
Understood.
access this. Because
Yeah, understood.
the one thing we all learn in the military is if you're relying on the boss, the CO, to do everything and push that all down to everybody, that's going to be what we call a failed unit, right? I mean, if we're not training and preparing everybody at every level to lead up and to support that unit's mission, then I'd call that a failing unit, and that's how we view this as well. So,
I
even
agree.
those of you who are looking to work in a company could benefit from what we have to offer in the training environment.
Gotcha. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's pretty much answering the question I was looking for. As I'm getting settled and established here in Colorado Springs, this kind of network for what you provide, what you do, I'm very familiar with. In a sense of being able to understand veterans businesses, how to start a business is what you need to do for entrepreneurship. And also, being able to have just the background, initiative. Ran into a family last night that was a veterans owned business. And of course, I'm one supporter. You talk about competition.
Yeah,
She's completely, something small, here, but it was, good for them and congratulated her. But
yeah,
we'll talk offline and I'll get you a holler soon and we can kind of endeavor in and see what if there's a possibility of things I maybe offer and in your sense of what would enable me to do for you or vice versa or directions that we may explore down the road together.
sounds great.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jordy.
Thanks, Garrett. Scott, do you have any favorite stories or ones you can share of some of your members, maybe how you've seen them improve over the years or grow their businesses?
Oh yeah, I as I was as Gary was asking his question, and I was thinking about it, and so 3 years ago at our conference, we were in Orlando, Florida, and the power of the network and the power of being present and being willing to speak up and willing to show warts and everything, which again, let's face it, those of us who served are oftentimes afraid to admit we don't know or we can't or are hesitant to get out there and put ourselves out there. Um, we hosted a pitch competition at this conference. We do it sometimes we don't. But this a woman veteran got up on the stage with boldness. She was by herself. She had started a company and created a sheet that's specialized for hospitals that make it easier to change. When there's a patient in the bed, right? You know how hard that is, and she had designed this thing. This this veteran had been homeless and without a job within the last 12 months.
Wow.
And she got up on the stage and admitted all that and pitched her product, walked off the stage, and by the time she was off the stage, there was someone in the audience saying, I have a contract with the VA to provide the VA with these types of products. And right then and there, they linked up and
Yeah,
she got access to the Veterans Affairs with her product. Again, not competition,
yeah, community.
partnership, working together. Um, Another guy, more developed. He sells medical equipment and office furniture. He's a Marine, and he's got a well-established company out in Nashville, North Carolina. And he walked into our conference, and uh, it was 2 years ago, and walked up to we have a lot of federal representatives at the meeting. He walked up to a VA contracting officer that he knew and had worked with and said, you've got a problem. Do you know this? And she's like, no, I don't know this. They sat down and they talked. 2 weeks later, Dan was awarded a sole source contract from the VA. And you may or may not know this, but a sole source contract for a veteran owned company from the VA is a unicorn. It's something that you never see. To provide a robotic solution for surgical activity in the VA hospitals. a year later, last year at the same conference, Dan now had that robot on the floor at the exhibit hall, sees the contracting officer, and for the first time, she gets to walk in and see what she paid for a year earlier on the floor at the conference. And again, and Dan is one of those guys who's willing to give back to those who are just getting started. But you know,
Right.
he's a probably a 20-30 million dollar a year company, but started somewhere.
From
The
that,
key
yeah.
to this is whether you're just getting started or a 40-50 million, is you got to be willing to engage. You got to start the networking. I just Jordy got off a call when it comes to employment with one of my senior strategy advisors that I have that works with me. He's retired Army down in Florida, and his son just got out of the Army and started today with SpaceX.
Wow.
And his comment to me is as we always know, Scott, it's networking. It's who you know. It's not really what you provide. It's getting into the networking.
Yeah.
And his son got into SpaceX because he knew somebody and had been networking and asked them for an introduction at SpaceX and got the introduction and the interview and the rest of it was off to the races. Once you
Awesome.
get in front of somebody, we can all win that,
Right.
win that discussion. Whether you're looking for a job, looking for a contract, starting a company,
Yeah.
it's about working in the network. And I think you would agree with this and know more than you could write a book on this, Jordy, is particularly those who are looking for good quality work coming out of the military. The network that you have in uniform is not the network that you need after the uniform. So
Right.
you have to be out there identifying people in niche. You can't be comfortable with just going, hey, we serve. Yeah, I mean, connect with me. We serve. And I'd love to connect with you. But you also got to look for those people that, oh, chief executive officer or something. I don't know. I mean, that seems
Yeah.
pretty high up there. Bull crap. Connect with them, talk to them, figure out what they're doing, ask them questions, pick their brain. But you got to think of your network differently once you're out of uniform. It's a different network if it's going to serve you well.
Yeah, I love it. Great advice. What networking is one part of it. What other advice would you have for the men and women here as they're getting ready to launch these next chapters, you know? How do they find that gig you mentioned at the beginning of like what they really want to do, something that lines up with their passions and their professional skill sets?
Yeah, lifelong learning. And most of us are pretty good at that. A lot of us claim it. Um, a book that I would recommend to everybody, everyone I mentor, particularly those in transition, is a book called Leading from Purpose by a guy named uh, Nick Craig. Leading from Purpose. It it really helps. It helped me solidify determining what it was that it helped me evaluate what made me tick. Because what I discovered was it's not what made me successful as a Marine aviator, officer, colonel, what made it me happy and content in my job. You on the surface, superficially, it's okay. Okay, is it flying airplanes? Is it being a commander? Is it leading people? Those are all very superficial statements. There are elements unique to me and the specific way that I did my work that help better to define who I was, what I am, what appeals to me. And it's those elements that are harder to kind of work your way out of, particularly when we don't get asked that question while we serve. Nobody was asking me that question. And so leading from purpose was a tool that really helped me evaluate who I am and why it's so important to try to find that position and lead from purpose. So you asked what advice I can give. Don't jump on the first job just because it's the first job. Be willing to give it a little bit of time to find. And many of you, I know you all have a leg up with SkillBridge and often, with what Jordy's going to present to you and is presenting to you all. So, but a lot of times we're fearful that my end of service is coming. I'm going to not have a paycheck. I got to support a family. I got to pay a mortgage. I gotta. And we jump on either the first thing that comes, or in my case, I jumped on a title and a paycheck and really wasn't certain of what I wanted. And so I wasn't happy where I landed. You know, I had a great paycheck. I had a really cool title. I was working in a legacy organization, but none of that described why I wanted. And I was unwilling to take some risk and accept the fact that, okay, might have to go a month or two without a paycheck and figure that out, and figure out how to do that. And I'm convinced that every one of us can survive a couple months of no pay to land somewhere where you'll stick and you'll be happy and you won't be resentful of your family because, ultimately they made you jump into something you're not happy with, so they could go to school or they could have a house. Or the more you do that, over time, you're just going to resent people. You're going to resent yourself. You're going to resent your family, your wife, your kids, your spouse. And it's interesting. On December 1st, I got a text from a retired sergeant major that had served with me since he was a corporal. And I gave him that exact advice. And he said, "Sir, it's 1 year to the day that I retired. And I really fought the urge. You told me to wait it out and get the right job." And I did. And I'm writing to tell you that I just signed on with this company out of Maryland, and it's just the right fit. And you told me not to jump on the first thing, and you told me to wait. And I listened to the boss, but it was hard, but I'm glad I did it. So, there's another story of someone just recently who took the advice. It's not easy. I get that. And one of the things for us, our military service, we all had different experiences, but one thing is it was pretty well outlined for us what life was going to be like. And so as we transition, it's that first phase of unknown that's different than anything else we've experienced while we were in uniform. And that really creates a challenge. And I believe the longer you serve, the harder it is for those of us who serve longer to be willing to accept some of that risk and everything.
Yeah, that's such great advice. I love that. I mean, it's super hard sometimes because you got other things pulling at you, but man, when you find that path that excites you, that gets you fired up to get to work early in the morning and stay late, man, you got to go fast when you find that. So I love that. Scott, this was so awesome, man. I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing a little bit about your story and the amazing work that you're doing at the coalition. And for anybody, please, like, no matter where you end up in your career, please keep in touch with these guys and take advantage of all those incredible resources, because it's super hard to start a business without people helping you and people who have done it and gone down that path before you. And if you can learn and get on a little faster track because of what Scott and his team do, man, jump on that. So we appreciate you. Hopefully you'll come back again and keep providing this great guidance and mentorship.
Yeah, anytime, Jordy, and I'm available anytime. I've got all the time in the world for veterans and military families. You know my name. The link is I saw it come up in the chat. I'd hope to get connections from all of you. And if I can ever be of help or service, do not hesitate to reach out. Obviously, Jordy knows how to get a hold of me too. So there should be no closed doors. You're pushing against open doors. So let me know.
You got it. Scott, thank you, buddy. Good luck, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks, buddy. See you all later. Bye-bye.
You got it. Bye-bye. All right, we're going to do a little quick exercise.